Looks like we have a good audience today. So we'll get started on time, and attendees will join as we go. So welcome to the Track Pulse and Resorts and Lodges webinar series. The Track webinar series today is featuring Doug Kennedy, who is the CEO of the Kennedy Training Network. The Kennedy Training Network is an alliance partner and marketing partner of Track Pulse and resortsandlodges.com. They are a preferred call center trainer. We've had many companies give outstanding feedback and reviews of Doug, who has spent 25 years training independent resort, lodge, boutique hotels, vacation rental company call centers, and have helped them achieve outstanding results. We appreciate you joining us today to discuss with Doug reservation sales tactics, and we hope that your team gets the benefit of this and can apply some nuggets in the field to increase your conversion rates. This is a webinar that's exclusive to Track Pulse and Resorts and Lodges customers, so we appreciate you joining. After the webinar, we will be making the video live and available online on Track's website. So thank you and welcome, Doug.
All right, thank you very kindly, Matt, and excited to be here for the first in our webinar series for 2016. We had a successful and eventful time last year for those of you who joined in. This year we did decide to open it up to all of the Resorts and Lodges clients. So if you're joining us for the first time, we welcome you. This will be about a 30 to 40-minute webinar, as typically they are, give or take a few moments, and each month you'll be getting a different topic to follow up. So Matt already mentioned a little bit about my company, which is Kennedy Training Network. We're based down in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area of Florida. We do training worldwide. We offer different topics, mostly relating to sales and guest service excellence. So that would be hotel sales department training, front desk training for hotels that have upsell opportunities at registration or that have opportunities to get a lot of walk-ins. We cover hospitality and guest service excellence. And a major topic that has always been a main focus of mine, and I'm still very passionate about, is reservation sales. So that's our theme today, which is reservation sales tactics circa today, 2016, and we will explore how our industry continues to evolve and, surprisingly, how important voice reservation is. So that kind of leads me to telling you a little bit more about myself for those of you who are not familiar. I see on the call a lot of familiar names, so many of you have been through my trainings on site for your hotel or call center or your resort or vacation rental company. But some of you know me from the articles that I write. But I've actually been doing this job for, as Matt said, 25 years, but I do want to point out I started very, very young. And as evidence of that, I'll show you a picture of my very first brochure. Yes, that used to be me. My first company was called Check-In Training. Check-in with 2 N's. Don't you think that's clever? It took me a long time to come up with such a clever name. I started out doing training right after a short career working for Marriott hotels when they first opened, and then later independent hotels in Manhattan and down here in Florida where I now reside. And I came up with this idea and this brochure to do training for the departments that I thought were really key. Front desk, telephone operators, guest service, and of course, reservations department. Now, back then, I got called Doogie Howser, MD, a lot, if anybody remembers that show. But a lot of people advised Doogie not to go into this field because they didn't really think that you would have a job anymore. Those of you in reservations, you are no longer supposed to be employed, and I am supposed to be long out in pasture and no longer having a career training people like you. Why? Because in the 1990s, when I started out, our jobs were going to be replaced. We were going to be replaced by touch-tone telephones. Can you imagine? Thank you for calling Grand X Hotel. Please enter your arrival date now, followed by the pound sign. Press 1 for king, 2 for double, double. Well, that just didn't happen, did it? So throughout the 90s, reservations actually became more important than ever before. And into the early 2000s, my next company, which right after I started, I merged with another individual, and we created a company which became known as HSA International. So many of you, if you go back a few years in this industry, quite a few years now, you might remember this company or this logo. I know some of you are like, well, Doug, I wasn't born then, or maybe you were in grade school. But in the 90s, we really hit on, something that was new, which is the concept that reservations was a sales job at all. Okay, and we'll explore that in the webinar today. But towards the end, around 2003, a lot of people that I work with, even in my own company, my business partners, a lot of people thought reservations would be going away. Because by then we had the internet, and now they have pretty little pictures, they have online guest reviews, so no one will ever call a hotel again, right? And yet our phones are ringing, and ringing they are. In fact, those of you on the call today, you may get a phone call such as this. Ring, ring. Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Brand X Hotel. This is Douglas. How can I help you? And they say, hello, where are you? And you say, well, sir, I'm at work here today. And then they say, sir, where are you exactly? And you think, that is a creepy question. Well, they want to know that you're there, okay? Or if you're not at a call center, you better be prepared to handle that question and say, well, we're not actually at the hotel, but we represent them and we sell directly for them. Because today's callers want to know. So today in our webinar, we're going to start our exploration of this subject that will continue throughout the year. All the webinars are based on our KTN program called Hotel Reservations Quest. And so we'll be looking at different components of this training. Some of you have had me on site to conduct training for your staff already. So hopefully this will be a good refresher and reminder. And again, if you've not had a chance to do so, this is kind of an overview of the things that we do teach when you have me directly to train your staff. Now, Reservation Quest, I introduced a little over 2 years ago because, I thought it was time to update based on what's different circa today. So I threw out all the training I'd done before, and I'd probably written about at least 5 or 6 training programs for reservations over the years. And I started listening. I started listening to calls from real callers. So clients that had systems like a track pulse where you can actually forward on to me audio recordings of the calls. I had other clients who would let me come and listen in to their recording systems on site. And still others, so my training clients actually sat right next to agents like you, and I listened to them handle real calls from real callers. And that's where I came up with the name Quest, okay? And the theme is, it's a quest. Our callers are on a quest for a place to stay. They called us, and that's why I love training reservation sales, and that is why I'm not an outbound telemarketing trainer. Can you imagine if we had to call guests to get them to come and stay at our hotels and resorts? So they called us on a quest for a place to stay. We have a quest every day as well to get one more booking. And in one of the future webinars, we will actually do the math on that if we all got one more sale per shift, what that adds up to at the end of the month, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, okay? So the key, though, and going back to this, we're on a quest for another booking. They are on a quest for a place to stay. And the key today is to ask the right questions. Sales circa today is all about asking questions, all right? And we'll be exploring that in its own webinar as well. But today, we're going to give the overview of what is so different about the reservation inquiries we're getting circa today than what we might have had in the past. Okay, now if you're brand new to the industry, you may be wondering, why do I care about the past? But hopefully what you'll find is by understanding where our industry has been, we will understand the whys behind the whats. We will understand the why we're being asked to do what I will be asking you to do in this and in future webinars. So with that in mind, let's proceed on then into our exploration about what is so different about reservation inquiries circa today. All right. Now, some of you on the call, I'm sure, recognize in this picture something called a phone book. Remember phone books? They used to be delivered once a year, at the front door of our houses and our offices. Here in South Florida, we don't even get phone books anymore. But it wasn't that long ago that people went to directories such as the phone book for information, okay? But today, the balance of power has shifted to the caller side of the equation. What do I mean by that? They are online before they come on the phone, all right? So in the past, if a guest was booking a trip, they would refer to the Yellow Pages or 411 directory services, or they would get the hotel brand, would publish a directory of all the Marriotts or the Best Westerns or the Hyatts in a little catalog in the lobbies, or they would use the AAA Auto Tour Book, or perhaps if you're a resort, they would buy Fedora's Guide to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, or Fedora's Guide to Western U.S. Okay, so they had very little information, all right? And that's why nowadays it is so very different, because before calling us, there is so much information for these guests to review, all right? So given all of this online information and all of the online booking options, why do callers still call us? I know there are days when you probably want to ask that question. Who are you and why are you calling me? But we'll explore in this webinar series much kinder and more gentle ways of finding out that information. But essentially, that's what we want to figure out. Who is this person? What is it they did not find online that caused them to dial us on the telephone? Okay? It's actually not even dialing anymore. You just press the numbers or click to call. So there's a reason that they did not book online. Now, if you would have gone back, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, probably about 15 years ago, when most of the hotels and vacation rental companies and resorts with us today, when you were getting your very first website, the tech salesperson, he or she came around to your office, met with your manager and said, hey, we're going to build you the coolest website. Everybody can book it online. Yeah, that's right. And they'll probably never call again. And all those people sitting over there taking calls, you won't need them anymore. Well, guess what? They still need it. So we want to figure out what it is they did not find online and why they decided to pick up the phone and dial. All right? And that's why we have to evolve our processes, because the world around us constantly changes. If we want to stay relevant, we better be listening to what's happening on the phone calls. All right? That's what I love about the track pulse system, that gives you a chance to do that. And I know even the resorts and lodges has options, if you're not yet a track pulse customer, that you can actually hear calls from real callers. We can learn a lot by that. So the first thing is we can figure out very clearly, most people that call, they have been online prior to calling, and a lot of them are online while they're on the phone, okay? Except now, circa the last few years even, most people are calling from the device they went online with, okay, their smartphone. So we have people that search online at a few still have this thing called a desktop computer. Some use a laptop computer or a panel, okay, an iPad, Kindle, or others, and then, of course, the smartphones. So they're either online while they're on the phone, or they just went online and then they called from their online device, all right? Now, why do they call? There's 4 different reasons that we're going to cover today, and your manager will be giving you a quiz. Well, just kidding, but it's not a bad idea, actually. The 4 different reasons I hope you will take away from today's talk. We want to figure out why they're calling us. Reason number 1, many are confused by conflicting information and online guest reviews and social media postings. Has anyone spoken with this woman recently? Has she called you? Raise your hand. I can see you. Not really. So this lady calls up and she is confused. Why? Because she went to the #1 most popular travel website in the entire world right now, TripAdvisor.com. There was a survey last October published in many of the online trade magazines, in which I do hope you read those. And I read these every day when they come out. I read about 5 or 6 of them. And somebody did a study where they actually went in and I guess they put tracers on a group of people's search engines, or they looked in their search history, but they actually looked for their actual search history to figure out where they started their travel planning, and by far and away, it was TripAdvisor. Okay, and the number 2 site, which had about 50% of the time that they started at TripAdvisor, they started at Expedia. Okay, so people start out at TripAdvisor and they read those reviews, especially if the trip is important to them. So that means if it's a more emotionally involved decision. So in other words, if you're going on a business trip and you're staying one night and I'm flying up to see resorts and lodges and I'm going into Minneapolis. In fact, I did that not too long ago, and I booked a room online, didn't call anybody, okay? I just booked at the local Marriott because I'm a Marriott Rewards customer and I get my frequency points, and my wife works for Marriott, so, you know, got to support the wife's company. But it was very easy. I didn't give it much thought. But when I took her to Jamaica in January, it was a whole different story, where I'm spending my own money, okay, not my company's money, when I'm staying longer, when I have my time that I'm investing, that's when I read the reviews. And what happens is this lady reads the reviews. Now, a lot of you today, I'm sure, have very good reviews. Some of my clients, of course, a lot of times, one thing we say in the training business, the people that need the training the most do not call us. It's the hotels doing the best job in sales and service that do call. So I have a lot of clients that are number 1, number 2, number 3 on TripAdvisor, okay? And for example, the Seaport Boston Hotel, I've been working with for years. I do sales and hospitality training. I was there in January, 3rd year in a row, still number 1 on TripAdvisor, okay? So you look at your 5-star reviews and your 4-star reviews, and then, of course, this lady clicks down to your 1-star review. And we all have them. Even my Seaport Boston had some terribles and a couple of poors. And then she is confused. What does she do? She picks up the phone and calls. Now, ironically, when you read your 5 stars and your 1 stars, they're talking about the same thing. In the case of the Seaport, one of the 5-star reviews talked about the front desk, made you feel just like you're at home. They were so welcoming. They were wonderful. The 1-star review, the front desk was rude. They were terrible. They were inefficient. I have a resort client in Cancun. I was just down visiting not long ago, Royal Resorts, and reading their reviews of their resorts. They have several there in the Cancun area. 5-star reviews, oh, the beach was beautiful, sparkling waters, pristine, sugar sands, so clean and well-groomed every day. 1-star review, worst beach ever, emphasizing the V's and the R's in the heading of their review. So people post conflicting information because people are humans and humans have opinions. And as a result, this lady gets confused. And she is one of our most challenging callers, is the gentleman or the man that has read your online guest reviews. Okay. Next up, have you spoken with this woman recently? Okay. She is overwhelmed by choices at your website and others. All right. So maybe she read reviews and she said, hey, you know what? I'm going to pick this place. Let me see where I can get the best rate. So she starts out by searching at Expedia, Booking.com, okay, or maybe she finds you at the wonderful little website called Resorts and Lodges. But then she pops on over to your website, and I can see from our list of attendees today, we have a lot of hotels that have a lot of room categories, all right? So we've got some vacation home rental companies. If you have 100 different rental properties, you have 100 different room categories. We have a lot of historic destination type hotels. You might have, 7, 8, 9 different categories. And then what about packages? Okay. So even for a traditional hotel that has standard superior deluxe rooms, the fact is those same room categories are available at other websites. And this woman reviews them all. Okay. And then she decides to give a call. So as a result of these first 2 in particular, the overwhelmed and the confused, agents like you every day get to come to work and deal with callers like these. Have you spoken to any of these people recently? Now, our third reason why callers still call has nothing to do with reviews, and it really doesn't have anything to do with distribution channels. They call directly because they want to either make sure the rate they see online is in fact the lowest rate, or just to verify that is, in fact, the final rate, all right? So either that they don't believe that the lowest rate is there, or they want to make sure that is the final price, that includes taxes, that includes fees, okay? I'm actually booking an overseas trip right now. I have to go to Europe this summer, and I'm going to tie in a little leisure time since I'm going so far. And sure enough, I went to some of the third-party websites because I really don't know the hotels over there, and it was frankly too late at night last night because I didn't think they'd be open, Sunday at 11 o'clock at night. So I went online, and in fact, the rate you see, and once you click 2 or 3 more screens, you see it is not actually the rate, that there are local fees, there are resort fees, there's add-on charges. So this caller, this man or woman too, they are called the value-driven deal seekers. They are the ones that call up and say, hello, are you on site? Oh, good, I got a question. Is that your lowest rate? Are you sure that's your lowest rate? What about discounts? What about promotions? Can I use AAA? Can I use AARP? Can I use both? So they want the best deal. Now, finally, our newest trend, these are the ones who are driving a lot of the call volume these days, and as a result of these callers, you may have found your call volume actually increasing in today's world because they search on a mobile device and they click to call instead of booking on their smartphone, okay? Have any of you spoken to these callers recently? We know that in 2013, the middle of 2013, that was the time when more people started searching on mobile device than desktops and laptops. Okay, and yet we see also the most recent research that I've seen, only 4% of bookings come from, overall hotel bookings come from mobile and 4% from smartphones. All right, now if you read Hotel Online, hotelmarketing.com, they'll say, oh, 25% of all bookings are mobile. Well, if you read closer, 25% of OTA bookings might be mobile. So if you're in rentaroomtonight.com, of course your bookings are skewed to mobile. But relatively, most people search, particularly on that smartphone, they click a button and they click to call, all right? Have you spoken to any of these people? I cannot believe how many calls my reservation agent participants in my classes, how many times they tell me the person is driving. Can you relate to that? Okay, sir, may I just have your credit card number, please? Oh, hold on, I'm driving. Driving down the road, great time to book your room, okay? Maybe you know how schools, my kids' school, used to have the sticker, don't text and drive. I think we in the industry should make a bumper stickers and give them out that say, don't book your room and drive. Apparently it's happening a lot. So as a result of these trends, we have to update our lodging industry reservation sales processes. And that's why today we're starting the journey of a quest for more reservations by asking the right question to end their quest for a place to stay. Now, we're going to finish up today by looking about what the history of reservations is we're going to look at, and then we're going to finish up today by giving you some previews of what it is we need to do differently to grab more, convert more callers today. All right, but first I'm going to take you back in time prior to when some of you were born, making me feel old. Prior to 1990, reservations was considered an administrative job. So when I was a student at University of Kentucky and I was working at the Lexington Marriott Resort at Griffin Gate, and back then, you had to really have special skills to work in reservations because there you had to pass a typing test. I don't know if anyone remembers typewriters. Maybe some of you even took something called keyboarding class in high school, all right? And if you did, your children will laugh at you. They're going to be like, Mom, school was really easy when you were a kid, right? You got credit for typing. Nowadays, kids don't have keyboarding class because they already know how to use the keyboard by the time they get to kindergarten. But what happened around the 1990s, about the time I started in the training business, it really hit for my training topic at the right time because all of a sudden hotels and resorts started to introduce nifty new features, amenities, and services to set them apart from all the others out there, all right? So all of a sudden, we had cool things to talk about. Embassy Suites was the first chain that I know of that started the free breakfast trend. And then, of course, Hampton Inn, Comfort Inn, Best Western, all the mid-market and economy hotels started throwing in free breakfast. Okay, now most of our hotels today, we have a lot of lifestyle brands. We have a lot of upscales. We have a lot of resorts. You probably don't have a free breakfast, but guests will ask, what does that include? Okay, so you would better have a good answer for that and say, well, actually, breakfast is an option. It's not built into the rate, but we do have a breakfast package. Also, nifty new features hotels started to introduce that we had to talk about: coffee makers in the room. Wow, cool. Yes, sir. And we have irons and ironing boards and hair dryers. Ooh, wow. I remember the day when you used to have to call for the iron and ironing board. A 200-room hotel might have 5, so you'd have to call early in the day, early in the evening when you checked in to get one. And then finally, internet. Ooh, yeah, I'll stay with you. Now, if you're a vacation rental, a private vacation home rental company, you had similar things. You'll probably remember some of the features here that we had to put into our vacation homes. Of course, internet was a big seller. And then fax machines. Wow, yeah, you can rent our condo or our home because we have a fax machine. And, of course, no one, about the time we added them to every rental unit, nobody's faxed anymore. And flat panel TVs was another one, or home theaters, which is now a standard feature. So back then, if you went through my training in the 90s and the early 2000s, we trained you to simply determine familiarity, find out the reason for travel. Okay, so have you stayed with us before? No. What brings you in? Okay, and then accordingly, you would provide an overview of the hotel features and benefits. All right. In other words, a scripted positioning statement is what we called it. In today's world, we call this the 30-second commercial for the elevator speech. All right. Now, if you want to see this, if you go to YouTube and check out Kennedy Training Network, okay, so that's Kennedy Training Network, put in your search bar, Kennedy Training Network, and look for our video, what today's callers don't want to hear, and you'll actually see, we have, I think, a fun little skit about, the perfect reservation agent that sounds so articulate, but she says the same thing to every single person, all right? In today's world, we call that the elevator speech or the 30-second commercial. And the problem is, callers don't want to hear that because they already know, because they've already been online prior to calling us, okay? So continuing on in our history then, so we moved from having no sales skills and being admin assistant, administrative jobs. We moved into a scripted approach in the 1990s. And then in the early 2000s, most hotel companies, brands, and some rental companies began forgetting on-site reservations. They thought that voice reservations was a dying distribution channel. They sent all their calls to what I call big box call centers. They mistakenly thought reservations was dying out and no one would call anymore. So in today's world, if you call most hotel brands and you ask for reservations, you get sent to Central, and quite frankly, no offense to the people that work there, all they do is they fail to see an interplay between the voice channel that they are and the online channel of what the guest is seeing, all right? And they treat reservations, with all due respect, they treat it like a website search support job. Nothing against the people working there because it's not their fault. The leaders have spun them down the road of treating reservation sales as if it was a technical support job for the poor dummies who can't book online, okay? So what are your dates? How many people? What kind of room? Click enter. Here's the prices. You want to book it? That's the one thing they're really good at. You want to book it? You want to book it? Sure you don't want to book it? But they don't sell you anything, and they can't tell you any information, all right? So this is where a lot of our industry has gone. However, those of you on the call today obviously care about voice reservations because you obviously still have voice reservations on site, and we want to outsell everybody else that sent their calls, outsource them, to a giant 400 desk call center in Omaha, or up in Eastern Canada, or in Manila, Philippines, where people find out the dates, click enter, read prices. All right. So smart companies know, smart hotels like yours, okay, recognize the new era, what I call hyper-personalization. We want to find ways to reach out and touch our customers in every way possible, all right? So rather than eliminating calls and hiding our phone number on our website, we proudly display that phone number, say, call us for the best rates. We encourage people to call you up. We are happy to assist them, okay? And we know that it's a great first impression for your caller, and it costs a lot less to book that reservation directly than if we book it through the online channels, okay? Because if they hang up and they go back online, we have lost a lot of money. And when you listen to real calls, that's what a lot of people do. You know, hey, as I'm checking the rates, do you have any questions? No, just tell me the price. If you do not engage that person, they're going to say, okay, thank you very much. All I wanted to know was the price. Just curious. Don't really want to stay there. Just a little bored today. Thought I'd call and get a price. Thank you. What they're really saying is, I'm shopping online, and if you don't convince me to book right now, I'm booking online. There goes 15%, 20% or more, okay? So we want to convince them to book. Once they click to call, we want to get them to book right here and right now. Plus, it gives a great first impression rather than sending that call far away to somebody who has no clue about anything. Which brings us to figuring out what it is we need to do about all this. We have talked about what the history of reservations has been, and we have talked about the 4 reasons why people call, so I'm sure you're all ready for the quiz. They're confused by conflicting reviews. They're overwhelmed by the number of choices they viewed online and elsewhere. Or they're the value-driven deal seeker that wants to get the best rate. Or they had no questions at all. They just want to call in a reservation. So what do we do differently to capture more bookings from these 4 groups of callers? All right. So as I mentioned, the reason we call our program Quest, because the key to end their quest for a place to stay, the key to end our quest for one more booking, is to engage callers with more and better questions. Sales used to be all talking about. Have you stayed here before? No, let me tell you about it. We have a pool and a restaurant and a bar. Tell you about the rooms. There's a bed and a nightstand and a lamp and a bathroom. So they know all that. Sales used to be talking about. Today, sales is all about questioning, all right? So we want to figure out, who are you and why are you calling, all right? And then we take our caller that is this masked voice that says, hello, I'm thinking about staying there. I have a few questions. And if we say, okay, what are your dates? All right, here's the price. Okay, thank you. All right, have a good day. Bye. We never get beyond this. But if we engage people and we find out a little bit about their story, we unmask that caller's story. Okay, and that's all we have to do is figure out who are you and why are you calling, and we can figure out there's a story to be told. Now, particularly the people that call tend to have the biggest stories. You know, again, if somebody is just staying for one night, they're passing through town, or they're there maybe even, you know, just to attend a wedding for the weekend, they're going to an event, the event is there, all right, or a social event, or maybe even a business meeting. You know, it's important, but they're not that emotionally dialed in. But if it's somebody's birthday, if it's somebody's anniversary, if it's a special occasion, the more, or if you're traveling with an elderly person or someone with special medical needs that needs to either to verify, in the case of an emergency, how far to the 24-hour pharmacy, how far to the hospital, okay? Or what about food allergies or special dietary needs, all right? The more we engage people, the more we can find out their story. So here is the most important question I encourage you to think about today. Take a picture of the screen if you want, or jot it down in your notes. The most important question of all, circa 2016, as I'm checking those dates, are there any questions I can answer for you, such as about the location, the amenities, or the services? All right? And now we engage them. So most people today, all they say is, what are your dates? How many people? How many nights? Okay, got a pen? Here's what we got. Some people go beyond that to say, what are your dates? How many people? How many nights? Have you stayed here before? No, let me tell you about it. Okay, and they give the 30-second commercial. The best salespeople today are going to ask this question here. When are you coming? How many nights? How many people? Have you stayed here before? No? Well, as I'm checking those dates for you, are there any questions I can answer about the locations, the amenities, or the services? Okay, and now we reach to that phone and we make a connection, all right? And some of them might say, no questions, I'm good. But about 30 seconds later, they say, you know what, actually, I do have a question, Nick, right? You have planted the seed. You are there to help them, whereas everybody else is a website search support agent that they're called, all right? And that's how we engage people today. As I'm checking the dates, any questions I can answer for you about the location, the amenities. The thing is, your system might be slow anyway, okay? It might take a little while to search. Even our best systems take a little time. So we could sit there looking at the screen and having dead air, or we could fill that in by making good use of that time to figure out, hey, what do you need to know? All right? Call centers hate this question. Off-premise people hate this question, okay? Now, I don't want to say only bad things because there are some great call centers out there. You know, we have both a TRAC and a KTN Alliance partner, Travel Outlook, does a wonderful job because they really take time to get to know the resorts they're selling. So if you're not happy with your call center, let us know. There are some good ones out there. But that being said, you know, nobody can sell it like those of you who are on site right here, right now. All right. Now, at this point, hey, do you have any questions for me? They will self-identify. They might be the multitasking caller that says, nope, I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a reservation. All right. And in that case, please skip everything else and go straight to the assumptive close. In other words, okay, how do you spell that last name, Mr. Kennedy? All right. So if the person says, hi, I want to make a reservation. Do you have any questions? Nope, I'm good. I do not want you to say, well, hold up. I got to tell you about all of our wonderful features and benefits and advantages, sir. Okay? There's plenty of people that are ready to buy. We're ready to take the sale. All right? On the other hand, they might say, no, I don't have any questions other than the price. Are you sure that's your lowest rate? Okay? I see this other rate online. All right? I'm going to hang up and book it there. You want to try to engage them. If you say, by the way, before I give you the rates, do you have any questions? Now this guy or this woman is going to be thinking, wow, they're pretty nice. That's where they say, what's your name again there? Oh, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. And then if Jennifer says, well, sir, you know, before I let you go, I can book you directly right now into our system and take care of all your requests right now. A lot of times that guest is going to say, well, you know what? Let's just do it. Okay. And you save them the trouble. All right. And now you grab one more direct booking instead of booking through an expensive third-party channel. Okay. So if we engage people with questioning and find out who they are, they're going to be much more appreciative of that, and we get an easy sale. Also, you might find they're the confused caller who says, actually, I do have a question. I read online. Right? Now, this is why managers, we want to make sure our frontline colleagues get access to websites with online guest reviews. And frontline colleagues, make sure that when you have time between calls to read your latest reviews. Go to these websites, click on the most recent reviews, and be prepared because, you know, as soon as somebody posts something, you're going to start getting questions about it. Okay? And, you know, as soon as there's one new posting, all of a sudden, you're going to start noticing that people call you up. They're going to say, hello, are you on site? Oh, good, I have a question. I read online it takes forever to get your car in valet parking. Okay? Or I read online that the beach has seaweed. Okay? Oh, no, there's no seaweed on our beach, sir, and we don't have sharks either. So you want to make sure that you know what's being talked about online. Also, if you say, hey, as I'm checking rates, do you have any questions for me? They're going to be saying, yeah, actually, you know, I went online and I'm looking at this room, and I'm looking at the Superior and then the Deluxe. What's the difference? Okay. And so rather than just saying, hey, the difference is $20, okay, try to use a storytelling approach to let them know, all right? And that'll be another theme of one of our webinars, is how to narrate the pictures they've already viewed online. So they're looking at the picture. You ever get that question? Hi, I'm looking at the picture right now and of this room, of this deluxe room. What's this room like? And I know part of you wants to say, it's just like the picture. But if we engage people and we find out what it is they need to know, okay, then we can give more specifics. And that's where we want to say, well, since you're coming here for your anniversary, you will love this resort. Imagine yourself parking your car at valet and you don't have to step outside the resort again. You can walk right into our lobby and have a fabulous special dining cuisine, okay? Or whatever it is you're going to do, tell the story rather than listing the facts. If you list the facts, we have a pool, we have a bar, we have a restaurant, we have a fitness center. So does everybody else, all right? So our themes today is to understand why people still call, why you still have a job, why I still have a training career. Because the more information we put out there, a lot of people are confused, others are overwhelmed. Still others are looking for the best deal because your hotel might be sold on 10 different websites. If you go to Trivago and you put in your hotel name, you'll be shocked to see how many places it can be found, okay? Or you have the person that has no questions at all and they're ready to make the reservation. Let's save time for that man or that woman that's driving and just get the booking and get them back on the road, focusing their eyes on the road ahead. And we'll save that time for the person that needs a little hand-holding, that needs a little bit more help. So I hope that you found this helpful, that we do all we can to fight, to scratch, to claw, to grab that one more booking, okay? And because at the end of the shift, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you have a huge impact, not only on your profitability of your hotel, but the entire operations. There are countless operational colleagues counting on you in reservation sales to bring the guest in. So we have more fronts for the bell staff, more covers for the restaurant wait staff, more rooms occupied for housekeeping. Well, I hope you found this beneficial for our webinar today. Please stay tuned for your announcements on our March webinar and for each month thereafter. I think we skip a couple of the busiest months of season, July and December, but other than that, every single month we'll be back to explore these and other sales training tactics for 2016 and beyond. This is my personal contact information here. I know you already have the information for our alliance partner, Track Hospitality Software, and Resorts and Lodges as well. So if you want additional details about any of our training services or the Track system, then please contact myself or contact Track directly. So thank you again, everyone, and we hope to have brought value in the time that you've invested in joining me today.